Hello, welcome to Image Bearers. My name is Atoma Edgy. This is the third season, episode 27. I'm so excited, but a little bit discouraged to know we're speaking with our guests who are in Hawaii. And I'm sure the weather is flat awesome. Is it like noon there right now or?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So is it the 29th or is it the 28th?
Yep.
29th. Okay, so just a little bit
29th.
earlier in the day. Okay. So no, I'm so excited. I had a chance to go through your book, Mind Change. And for those watching, I think you guys are in for a special treat. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves and just share a little bit about your lives and kind of, I guess, for yourself, Heather, how you got into writing this book.
Absolutely. So my name is Heather McKean and my husband, Kent McKean. And this is so exciting to be able to share this. So thank you so much, Atoma, for having us on. Okay, how I ended up writing Mind Change is really an interesting story. I actually set out to write Metanoia Method first.
Okay.
Because I mean, I'm a disciple, I'm a Christian. For me, all of this had to be filtered through scripture before I was going to align my life with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that I did, geez, what is it now? 10 years, 8 years? I'm not great with the numbers there. 8 to 10 years ago, how I got into all of this, I filtered it through the scriptures first to make sure it aligned. Blew my mind. Not only did it align, to me, it made things so much more clear. Things that I had maybe glossed over or overlooked or sort of just tried to make sense of before, to me now were like crystal clear. So I set out to write Metanoia Method first, but I got down there and then Mind Change came out. So Mind Change is what first came out. I think because honestly, I needed some more time with the Metanoia Method, and I really needed my husband to be on board with that and to have his input into the spiritual aspect of everything. So I'm so grateful that Mind Change came out first, because I really think that the book, The Metanoia Method, is so much more full because of the time and the partnership that I had.
It's full. It's like 300 pages, right?
Yeah,
and
like
holy moly,
50 pages, yeah.
We edited the dickens out of that thing.
Oh, I'm fine. That is fine with me. That is fine with me.
There's so much more, Atoma, there's so much more, but we'll get there eventually. So my story, how I ended up with this was, I ended up I think it was 2012.
Yeah.
We were in the ministry, full-time ministry, Northern Virginia, but at this point, actually, I was on disability.
Okay.
Because I had a laundry list of illnesses and diseases that had just exacerbated and had gotten so big that I'd say kind of that, people have that moment, that time. It was December 2012. I was at home. I was in liver and kidney failure, and I was on an IV drip at home.
Wow.
And we were legitimately having conversations about what was going to happen if I died. Like, I mean, we were trying to get the affairs in order, trying to figure this stuff out. And I had just gotten to a place in my health where I had felt like I had tried everything. I'd done every approach. I'd done all the things medically, thought I had done all the things spiritually. I mean, I tried everything, and I had gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. To the point where I literally cannot even remember all of the diseases that I had been diagnosed with, but they are in the book.
Can you share about some of them? Can you remember some of them? Okay.
Lyme disease, chronic Lyme with multiple co-infections. I was with one of the premier Lyme literate doctors on the East Coast, and I was awarded the glamorous
most co-infections.
Yeah, most co-infections
she
had ever seen in one person. I had been diagnosed with some form of African malaria that I had not at that point been to Africa. I was like, how would I chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, and those were POTS was another really big one. POTS is a heart condition, or it's like a dysautonomia where I would pass out, had chronically low blood pressure, a lot of different stuff with that.
Little mini strokes.
Yeah, I had started having mini strokes.
Wow.
Some of you out there who might listen to this were a part of when that happened to me. I would be in a D group and I'd stroke out. I just couldn't speak. I would just be stuck. I knew what was happening in my mind, but I couldn't speak. I'd slump. It had gotten really, really scary. I'd also had massive back issues to the point where I'd had surgeries already. I had spinal fusion. I was set for another surgery, but the pain was unimaginable. Literally, not at that point being a suicidal person, really felt like I actually couldn't live with the pain any longer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I found myself. Tons of other diseases, all of which I had blood work, I had MRIs, I had all the proof that these things were real. And yet here I was, I'd tried everything, I was dying. We'd spent so much money on healthcare and disability. And so I got to a point in my journey where I was like, okay, well, I either need to live or I'm gonna die. And what that meant to me was I just needed to try one more thing. And I had gotten a doctor actually had spoken to me about learning a little bit more about the mind-body connection. And I had some spiritual women in my life, some people who I adore, that had said to me at some point or another, do you think that your traumatic past might have anything to do with this?
Wow.
And I was like, no, because I can talk about it. I talked about it. I shared about it. I was invited to speak about it all the time, about growing up in a sexually abusive home, physically abusive, addiction, all of this stuff. But I thought, I can talk about it. It doesn't bother me. I'm fine. I'm a fully functional adult. So I didn't think it had anything to do with my past. But a few women had spoke that out to me, and I was just like, I don't think so. Come to find out, I did go and I did get some training about the mind-body connection. And I started out with something that was akin to EFT, which is this tapping thing, right? And so it seemed a little hoodoo voodoo to me, frankly, in the beginning. I was like, I don't know. This just seemed weird. But one thing was said to me, which is our brain has the ability and the capacity to create almost anything, amazing things.
So you have a very powerful brain.
Powerful. So I will tell you right now, this was the thing. People ask me all the time, what was the thing? This was the thing. For the first time, and I was really tipped toward a kind of a negative, pessimistic victims kind of mentality. Yeah. I'd have probably clocked you if you would have told me that back then, but I didn't realize it. But for the first time ever, when I heard, holy moly, I actually might be creating this.
Wow.
Rather than go, oh, of course you are, or you're so this, or beat myself up, or go somewhere icky with it. Mm-hmm. I did that same thing you just said. Well, if I'm powerful enough to create diseases in my body that I didn't even know existed, what else could I do with that power? Mm-hmm. That changed everything.
Yep.
That changed everything. I was almost perfectly well within a few months. Now in my mind, I was well anyway. I just needed my body to catch up with me.
Sure.
But I was having to titrate off. I've got pictures of it, got all the stuff on 180 things a day at the worst of the
medications. I think you know that in the book. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was medications, injections,
supplements,
tinctures, like all this stuff. So it's not surprising that I was in liver and kidney failure. My body was like, oh my gosh, can't handle all of this. But so I had to titrate off of some pretty intense medications.
Sure.
And within 3 months, I was off all medications. I was in the gym, leg pressing, what was like 450 pounds or something like that, working out, living my life. And I just was like a totally new person. Mm-hmm. And it clicked for me. And I was like, this is what Christianity is supposed to be. like, this is the thing I thought, like that total transformation, that ability to be free from what I thought was never going to change. It wasn't just that the diseases in my body, they were just manifestations, outward physical manifestations of actually what was going on inside of me.
Right.
Sure.
So I got well, and really quickly, really intensely.
Which
and
obviously, if I'll say, changed our family dynamic. I mean, at that point, when she was really, really sick, that December 2012, we had a 5 and 3-year-old, you know, so that was a very different mom-kid relationship for those first however many years of their lives, right? And then
Sure.
all of a sudden, months later, she's well, and she's a different mom. The kids are different kids, you know.
changed the way I felt about God, changed the way I saw God. My ministry at that point was like, oh no, I'm doing this totally different. Like,
Right.
I'm just doing it different. Doing it from this empowered place, from this victor place, it was just incredible.
So in your book, the first section is called, you kind of titled it, The Science Behind It All. And so you kind of got into that a little bit, but can you kind of go through some of the elements or the concepts just in regards to the power of the brain that you kind of refer to in the book?
Absolutely. My favorite part.
And can you also hold your book up too, Mind Change?
Yeah.
So people can see what it looks like and know.
Change. This is what it looks like, nice and clean. And yes. Okay, so here's the thing. I believe that God created us with intention.
Mm-hmm.
And if he created us, then I believe he created our brain. And when I realized the power that we hold within our own mind, I dove deep into the neuroscience.
You read quite a bit, don't you?
Oh,
I didn't actually realize how much of a researcher I was, but I started just eating this stuff for breakfast. I wanted to know everything I could know about the brain.
And I think just to comment, your book, I think is really well written. It kind of shows that research that you've done that you pull in. So it's appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I read some pretty dense research material.
Mm-hmm.
I try to keep up on that, and I'm subscribed to a few of those different things. Some of that stuff is just super, super dense.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like when I could take away stuff and it made sense that, oh, what I'm doing is actually backed up by science.
Sure.
And it's backed up by scripture, I just got super excited. But I wanted to make it my prayer was that it would be like easily accessible and readable, because a lot of the things I was reading were not.
Sure.
But I wanted it to be for people, but I did want people to understand the mechanics of our brain.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when I dove deep into there, it seems really complex, but then if you come out of it a little bit, it makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I talk about the difference between our conscious mind and our subconscious mind, which is absolutely crucial. So our conscious mind is what we're using now when we think thoughts about our thoughts. It comes from our prefrontal cortex, it's the most evolved part of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what our conscious mind is. It's how we kind of reason things through. Now, our subconscious mind is so important because it runs sort of our automatic system. It actually takes care of us in the biggest part. Like, our subconscious is the biggest part. Regulate your blood pressure, your digestion, your breathing automatically. It just knows how to do that. But it also is responsible for making us who we are. It's our personality, it's our characters, it's our filters, it's all of that. And it's all held in our subconscious mind, and it dictates 95%
or more,
sometimes more, of our actions, reactions, feelings, and emotions. And so I was like, I never even knew about it. Like, I didn't even know about it. So I dove as deep as I could into that, and realizing how important it is and how vital it is for memory formation.
Mm-hmm.
And what it really is what makes us who we think we are. Mm-hmm. But then we give so much credit to our conscious mind. And oftentimes our conscious mind is what gets us in trouble. So our subconscious mind is built and created, and we are a learning machine. The minute we come into this world, we're collecting data constantly, collect,
yeah.
and storing it. the subconscious mind can handle all of that data input. It's like 7 billion, 4 billion bits of data every day it can process.
Mm-hmm.
Our conscious mind, 7
Bits.
at best. 7 bits at best. And that's usually attributed to females who seem like they can multitask. Men are usually around 5. Makes us a little more scattered sometimes. But so if you think about that, that's our subconscious mind holds everything.
Mm.
And when I realized that, I was like, oh, we're so often dealing with the wrong part of our mind.
Sure.
And so, yeah, that's where a lot of the science comes from, is how we form memory, what memory is. And it's so much more than this this picture that we have in our mind from way back when.
Mm-hmm.
It's what we access to know how to do anything. It's the building blocks of any skill we have, And it's formulated most intensely in our early developmental years. So highly influenced by our primary caregivers.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really big for me, because coming from a family where we were, there was divorce and all the abuse and all the alcoholism and the addiction and the drugs it made me realize, okay, I did a little bit of blaming of my parents in my earlier years of thinking, well, no wonder I'm so messed up. Look what I come from. Mm. But this shifted everything for me. It shifted when I was like, oh my gosh, my parents, if I can really look at them in doing the best they had with what they had.
Sure.
So I was like, oh, it's not that they didn't want to provide for me, that they didn't want to connect with me, that they really literally didn't have the skill set. Mm. They were just continuing to go along with the cycle of it. So that also, talking about science, led me to epigenetics, which epigenetics is that trauma can be passed down in gene expression.
Mm.
Now that got a little tricky, because then, and I noticed this model because of the disease model that I had before, where I did celiac disease and they said that was genetic. And I realized, but they said to me, oh, this blew my mind. And I put this together later in my life. When I got diagnosed with celiac disease when I was in my 20s, they said it was genetic. So someone else in my family must have had it. But the doctor asked me, what traumatic event happened to you? And I was like, how long do you have? But what he meant was that gene gets turned on. Even though I carry it, it only gets turned on through trauma. And I started to realize, oh heavens, that's with most things actually. Even if you carry the gene, so carrying the gene is like loading the gun. Our environment is like pulling the trigger. And so that started to get me to realize that, well, then epigenetics, the next part of it says we can actually change our genes, the expression of our genes with our thoughts. Mm-hmm. And scripture just started coming alive in my mind. That's what God was saying. That's why our one thing that we can do is repentance, which is mind change. We can change our mind. The brain is what they call plastic. It's neuroplastic, which means it's malleable. It continues to change. It has the ability. God did that. None of us are stuck in anything, no matter what we come from, mm-hmm. No matter what, if it's genetic, none of us are stuck.
So what you're saying to me, and just from reading your book and what you're saying now, is to be very, very, very careful what I allow through the gates of my mind.
Mm. Yes.
If I quote, allow a guy coming in with arsenic and poison and all kinds of craziness, he's in my wool, so to speak, of my mind, and he can do anything. So I got to be very careful and make sure I'm feeding my mind the right things. And the scripture talks about that, which we'll get to kind of as we continue. So the second part of your book covers some of the practicals of the mind change method. Can you please share just briefly some of the practicals that you cover?
Yeah. Do you want to cover some of the initial stuff?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is in, there's an overlap that the first part of Metanoia Method is actually very, very different in a lot of ways than the
Oh,
first.
the mind change. You're talking about mind change?
Right.
Okay, got it.
But the second part of both books, and here we're talking about mind change, have some similarities with some of these things we're going to share. So, yeah, there's 5 main parts of the second part of the book, second section. First of all, we talk about the safe haven. And that's really, I mean, we go to places in our mind all the time, right? Like we're constantly in our heads about things, and being able to have a place that you can go that's full of peace, full of joy, full of love, full of whatever. That's the safe haven. And actually that's really helpful for people that have been through really traumatic things in general. So we have, practicing and developing a safe haven. We talk about the GPS, which is your gratitude, positive affirmations, and smiles, right? And so
we'll get to that. I was practicing that this week.
Very cool.
So we'll get to that. Yeah, I have a very stressful job. I was like, I got to use this stuff. So it was very helpful.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
So we got the GPS, we got the, goodness, what else? We have, the manifesto. And this is really where you're going, right? This is your, it's not just a dream, it's not just a goal, but this is where I will be. And where I can be. And so we talk about manifesto and the importance of that. And then some of the key factors in being able to have a sustainable manifesto, GPS, and safe haven is to deal with the stuff in our life. And that's the pain cure. And of course, that's my wife's little acronym there of past negative experiences and current realities. And so we have the pain cure. And so it's everything that you don't like in your life, anything that's happened, trauma, issues, feelings, beliefs, mantras, whatever, and obviously events. And so we talk about that. And then the key to it is obviously changing all that, right? And so then obviously that's the pattern interrupts. Now there's a billion different ways to interrupt the way that our subconscious mind is playing a record, right? Because that's kind of what's happening. It's constantly just going. It's just flowing. It's not thinking. It's just going.
And that's science. Taking it back. It's also scripture, but taking it back to science. Our brain has to any message, make sense of any message, right? The body is just the servant of the mind. So that's what happens. And it's like he said, like a record or a CD. So many of this stuff is imprinted into us. And a lot of it we're unaware of. It's kind of like if you were to look at a CD, like you can't actually see the words written on there. That's very similar to the subconscious mind. But if in the right way, you put it in the right thing, it's going to play that same song over and over again.
Cyclical. Yep.
So let's say you are playing, an AC/DC CD, and you start to realize, this actually does not, I don't really like AC/DC anymore. And so, but here's what's happening. So something gets triggered in our mind, but then it sends these electrical impulses down into our body. It gets the feedback from our body and it has to come back up again. And then we make sense of it and then it keeps going down. If we interrupt that process, and this is science, if we interrupt that process where we really fire it, where if I could MRI your brain and I light up the memory or this, or we start to play that AC/DC song, but you actually want the Rolling Stones to play, then what we have to do is rewire. So we have to first scratch that CD so much, the AC/DC song, that it won't play any longer. And then we rewrite and we rewire. That's our brain's ability. It does that. So that's what the pattern interrupt is. And it's actually, we already know this. Atoma, let me tell you how you already know this. Do you have children?
No.
So, but you've been around children.
Yes.
What happens when a child falls down and scrapes their knee? What do all the adults do?
They kiss it or come and try to comfort them and so forth.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh, what we're trying to do is shift, because the worst thing you can do for a skinned knee is go, oh no, oh geez, oh gosh, oh my, like the kid's gonna flip.
Right.
So we already know this. We don't want to further ingrain that. We want to go, oh, look at the birdie, or it's okay. We're going to kiss them so that we can transfer something else. It's not distraction, although we think it's distraction. It's legitimately getting the child to shift their attention and make a different choice.
Right.
then it's a choice. There is pain and there is feedback, and we don't want to ignore that, but we need to know that there's a choice, and that's the pattern interrupt.
Mhm. No, that's awesome. Yeah, this is so amazing. So you also mentioned gratitude and affirmation. I think you kind of mentioned a little bit, Kent. Can you share a little bit about that and the importance of that in reference to your health and well-being? And you talked about that a little bit with the pattern interrupts and so forth. But that's kind of like rewiring your brain, I think. So.
Right. So another thing we say is that you can't heal what you won't reveal. So that is part of it.
You should write jingles. You're very good.
Well, thank you. So there is a part of it revealing, like really feeling it, really revealing it, and having a safe place to do so. Mm-hmm. And then when we really are able to do that and you're building trust with your mind and body, that is when gratitude and positive affirmations become a superpower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's interesting. And of course, when we're working with clients and different things, when you scratch that part of the brain, that memory, that feeling, that whatever, when you get there enough and then you have no more negative feelings about something, our brain wants to fill it with something. It really does. And our brain wants to fill it with good. It's amazing the research and the science behind all of that. But gratitude and affirmations and just pouring that into our lives is absolutely vital. Now, it's all over the Bible too, right? I mean,
oh, yeah.
What do we fill our hearts with? Gratitude and thanksgiving and joy and rejoice in the Lord daily, right? All these different things. But one of the things that I'll just kind of throw on there as well is gratitude and affirmations alone will not necessarily make you grateful and positive and affirmed and validated and all those things, because if we're throwing that on top of the so consciously we're like, I'm going to thank myself, I'm going to be grateful for things, that's all conscious. But if on the subconscious level, things are playing, and I feel yuck about myself, life stinks, nothing's good, I've had all this trauma, those people are mean, whatever's playing under there, you can have this conscious niceness. And that's the kind of people, and I was actually totally one of these people, where like I had to have my focus time with God. And if I didn't have X amount of time praying, X amount of time, then the rest of the day I would be grumpy. I would be like, meh. And it was like, that was the conscious mind of saying, I didn't know this, but that was the conscious mind of being like, today I'm going to be good. Today I'm going to be good. And if I didn't have that exact focus time, then today I wasn't, because deep down there was these other programs running. So I say that to say, this is what I tell a lot of my consultations is I say, listen, we all want good things in our life, but you can't just cover the junk up. So if you have a pet and the pet goes to the bathroom in the middle of the floor, what do? Do you just put a rug over it and spray some potpourri and move the table and woohoo, everything's good? No, eventually that smells good. The good smell's going to go away. Eventually people are going to be, why is there something in the middle of the floor? Like it doesn't belong there. You got to clean it up. Then you can put your candles around and do all the different things. And so it's the same thing with our mind. We first have to clean up the junk, and then the gratitude can actually last. The affirmations can actually be worthwhile instead of having to pour it on. It's just eternal after that. So it's plain.
No, yeah. That's amazing. So yeah, I think there's so much in this, and I know you've written the 2 books, so I think that there's definitely a lot to dive into. So I know you guys have been disciples for a number of years, and you've been in the ministry for 15 years. Can you share a little bit about how you guys became disciples, and also just how your time was in the ministry? Kind of taking a little bit of a turn here, but we'll keep going.
We have very different stories of how we became disciples. So I guess I'll share first. I grew up, my parents met as disciples in Florida at university, and they got married, and obviously.
Well, you should say, for those that may not know, who are your parents?
Oh, my parents are Randy and Kay McKean, and they moved to Maui a year and a half ago to retire and be with us, be with their grandkids. That's the real reason.
That's the real.
But yeah, and so goodness, they, I grew up in the church. I grew up as a kingdom kid, right? And so for me, developing that relationship with God at a very early age was something that I really valued and was really grateful for. I was really grateful for all the people around me, the mentors, the preteen leaders, the teen leaders, obviously my parents. One of the main reasons I wanted to become a disciple was really what I saw in the home with my family. I mean, my parents, everyone's got, issues and family dynamics and things, but I really saw truth behind what they preached and what they lived. And that was the congruency that I wanted, because I was around other kids in the world and other things like that. And there was an incongruency. And so I really wanted that. I yearned for that. So I became a disciple when I was 12, and I got baptized back in 94, and best decision of my life. Now, there's a lot of other stuff after that that's all in the book that you can read about. But that's how I became a disciple. I'll let Heather share.
Yeah, obviously totally different. I did not grow up in the church, although I did grow up with a lot of religion around me. And what I took away from that was that it was all hypocrisy, that it was not a good thing. I mean, we came from professed Christians, like my mother's side, an uncle who was a pastor and another uncle who attended seminary, and a lot of that, they'd chase Jimmy Swaggart around the country and do that. But it was I'm at church on Sunday, sitting next to the same people who are hungover from what we just did the night before. Sure. And for me as a young person, I was already pretty idealistic, and I just thought this is not where it's at, clearly. So I rejected it for the most part, and just tried to find myself in other ways. I moved to LA when I was 20 something because I thought I was going to be an actress and all that fun stuff.
You can still write jingles.
I know, I can. When it all comes to it, I'll just write some jingles. Yeah, I had the stars in my eyes and everything. And I'm from the Midwest. I'm a farm girl, really, at heart. But I thought I'd go to the big city. I really thought that's where it was all at, right? Because, we do that. We try to find who we think we are in a place, in a job, in a marriage, and whatever. So I thought I'd be a movie star. Was not a movie star. And in fact, had a rough time in LA. I was clearly a country girl in a big city, but I met some people through my job. Steve Anderson and Holly, who was Holly Mantle at the time in LA. They were teen leaders in the church in LA. And they would try to kind of talk to me about church. And I was like, oh, no. I know that Christianity thing. No. But their life over time, I was like, they are doing something right. And because they had a lot of teenagers around them, and I hated teenagers. They were the most awful people I ever could think of. I was an awful teenager. And I liked some of these teenagers. They seemed like good-hearted kids. And there was such a lightness. So I noticed that eventually they won me over. They invited me to a women's day, which that's not church, right? They were like, no, it's on a Friday night. And I was like, okay. I was done after that. I was a sobbing mess after that. Because I think that particular Women's Day way back in the day was the whole thing about our heart. Like, we keep trying to give it all these other places to find out if we're really lovable. And I was like, oh my gosh, that seems really real to me. Studied the Bible, found out for myself, oh, that's what the Bible says. And then I was not exactly the most put together disciple after becoming baptized. I was the one that was in like spiritual recovery month after month after month. I was like, I'm back again. The Flemings, bless their heart, doing spiritual recovery all the time. Like, I'm back. I'm a mess. But I realized I had no social skills. I had no emotional intelligence. Zip. I'd been on my own since I was 11 years old. And yet, had been all over the place. I had none of it. And I was so grateful for the people that held that space for me to help me grow up a little bit emotionally. It was amazing. So many people put up with me. I'm still sorry, guys, what you went through with me. Thank you. And I'm here today from so many people I could name by name, but yeah, so grateful.
Yeah. So ministry, we were in the ministry for many years, and I wanted to be in the ministry even as a teenager, as a college student. It's something I really yearned for. And then, at the time in life when ministry wasn't really an option and people were losing their jobs, and my parents weren't in the ministry for a little bit, that's when I graduated, and I was like, oh wait, I can't do ministry right now. So long story short, we got married, and about a year later, we were able to go into the ministry, and that was really, it was a dream come true for me. Like, I really wanted that. I had done a number of things after college, and tried other things, but my heart really was for that. I taught, I did horseshoeing, I did woodwork, I did tons of different things, but I really loved the ministry. And and Heather, had really had dreams of mission work and ministry and things, but it just wasn't at that time really an option before we met. And so, when we both went into the ministry, it was awesome. It was great, really excited. And then what?
Wait. You forgot South Africa.
Oh yeah, I'll get there.
Okay,
So, so we went to a few different places. We did campus ministry. We did youth and family ministry for like 10 years. I mean, that was kind of our baby there. We loved that. But what is about 10 years, 12 years after getting into the ministry, or maybe 10?
Well, all the while I'm getting sicker.
Oh yeah, by the way.
Sicker and sicker, which I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but this is not, what I was doing is not rare in our movement of being a chronically ill women's ministry leader. That's not a rarity. There was a mold I was fitting into quite well. And so, but I just was getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So our heart had always been to be on the mission field, but here I was barely able to live on so much medical stuff. Like that was not looking like a good future for us. It didn't look like it was going to happen.
And so when 2013 came around and she was like, wow, I'm better, it was like, oh, we can aspire to that dream, of going on the mission field. And so that was, we kind of opened ourselves up. Hey, we thought maybe Europe, because I had grown up partially in France and things like that, and we had been working with the churches over there, but we opened ourselves up to, hey, who's in need right now? Like, let's just open ourselves up. So it was, goodness, some of the places that we talked to people about, Papua New Guinea, Australia, obviously some different places in Europe,
Scotland, Ireland,
whatever.
Ukraine.
But Ukraine. So we were kind of Indonesia. It's like wherever. But Africa came up, and it just kind of came on our hearts, and especially on my heart, and really connected there with the Rentons, and we're able to go over there in 2014, and that was really, it was a dream come true for us.
It was pivotal for us. It
really
was pivotal. It was an amazing experience. South Africa will have a piece of our heart forever and ever.
You just can't, and you understand it, but I feel like you can't understand South Africa until you've lived there. I mean, all the countries right around there, but it's an amazing place that the people there have gone through so much, and there's so much good that they've gone through. We think, there's a lot of different issues in America, but holy cow, like what South Africa has gone through and risen above in a lot of ways is amazing.
It gave us much needed perspective as Americans.
Yeah.
As Americans, we needed that perspective desperately.
Yeah.
And we're so grateful for it. I was just mind blown by the strength of the South African people.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Yes.
That's awesome. All right, we're coming a little bit to a close. Just got a couple questions. So I know you have the second book. Can you, I think you have a copy of your second book there, right?
Right here, Metanoia Method.
That's awesome. So you guys wrote that one together, as you stated. Can you share a little bit about some of the people that you've worked with, maybe just one or two people, just some of the changes you've seen in their lives, without obviously going into too much detail and revealing whatever, but if you can maybe share.
Yeah, Absolutely. You know, what's really amazing about working with clients is to see very fast and immediate change. Like that's really, really cool. And so, yeah, I'll share. I worked with one guy not too long ago, a couple of years ago, maybe, who really is a disciple, great guy, great heart, and he was getting stuck on just really who he is in God's sight. There was a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, a lot of not good enough, not doing enough. You know, these kind of things. Had run in and had interactions with different leaders or different friends and disciples and whatever, that there was just problems. I mean, really great guy though, like stellar. But he just knew that he was stuck. And so I just did a couple of sessions with him, just two. And to see his transformation, the way that he finally saw God and saw himself through God's eyes instead of seeing himself through a negative lens of what he thought he was and all these things, and seeing himself get freed from these relationships that he thought he was stuck in, but it was just him. It has nothing to do with the relationships, has nothing to do with God or the Bible or church. It was all stuff from within. And working through just a handful of his past negative experiences really freed him. His mantras, his belief system, his core beliefs about himself radically changed. And he is thriving. And so it's just really, really neat to see people, whether it's ministry or whether it's just your loving, amazing disciple, to see them transform in such a short amount of time. But it's the core beliefs. It's the what I think about myself. And that's really a good section of the book is, who did God make us? He made us good. He made us very good. And so many of us as Christians, we come to God from a place of, I'm no good, therefore I need God. Instead of realizing, God, you've made me good. Wow, who can I be if I actually get in alignment with who you created me to be and how you created me to live and all these. So anyways, there's a lot there. That's just one particular guy. And then we've worked with a lot of ministry people as well. You want to share?
Yeah, I mean, so much victory over illness.
Yeah.
So much victory. I mean, over things that were things were spoken over them, like this will never get better. It's going to get progressively worse. They could possibly die from it. I mean, I've had a number of people heal rheumatoid arthritis, which I was doing before as well, which is supposed to be progressive, where there's joint changes. People can't even make a fist. I was just on with someone the other day who we cleared that for, and they were like, look at this. I've never been able to do this in as long as I can remember, like
That's
making
awesome.
a full fist. Addiction.
Oh my goodness.
Like being free from that whole mindset that I will always be. I will always be.
Always need accountability. Always have to check in.
This is always going to be my issue. And I'm like, oh, I just don't see that in the Bible actually. But there is so much freedom from, porn addictions to food addictions to drug addictions, alcohol, like so much victory over addiction. And really, not that so many of these people at Toma came thinking they've tried everything, feeling broken beyond repair. And a lot of them had a belief too. And I'm thinking, oh, how sad to think they've done the one thing, like they've become Christians. They've connected to the highest power and they feel more broken than ever. And that breaks my heart.
Yeah.
But to see people free from that, to hear the things in our groups, in our Facebook groups and stuff, the people who've done the trainings and who are clients and stuff, to hear the things they're saying, the way they speak about God, I get like, yes, it's so victorious. And it's so life-giving. So I have so many stories, so many client stories, and we do share client stories in the book, but
anonymously
names are changed because that is something else to us. Of course, client privilege and confidentiality is of the utmost concern, but we do want people to see and hear and understand. And honestly, a lot of our clients in the end, they're like, I don't care who you tell, tell everybody. Tell everybody, because they're no longer enslaved by it. They're not ashamed.
Yeah, they're not ashamed of their stuff anymore. So, I mean, you're talking about we've worked with, and people are completely overcomers, whether it's addiction, insomnia, trichotillomania, or
Yeah, so many things.
you know, the pulling hair. I mean, whatever, medical things, physical things, thyroid stuff, doesn't matter. Anything can be changed because it's from here.
Even totally, I did not even realize this was going to be a thing. But I have this beautiful, amazing neighbor. She used to be my neighbor. And she was over one day. She's like, do you think this could help with childbirth?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. We can see. And now I have this entire subset of my practice that is helping women to have empowered childbirth, to do it without pain, without it's just been an amazing thing. I did not know that was going to be a something, and it's such a big something.
Because you clear the past resources, whether it's their own past births that they've had, or stories, or things they've watched or heard, or whatever. You clear all that, they have no negative resources, and then you help them create the neural pathways for their future birth.
Yeah, I think for me personally, what I can say is what you're sharing is basically Christians going into and doing the research, finding out about these different practices and things that are being done, and in a sense, baptizing them by the word and finding out how those things are biblical and incorporating them into our lives. And to me, that's what it seems of what you have done. And I think it gives people, in a sense, I wouldn't necessarily even say a new lease on life, but maybe a more accurate way to live our lives in the way that God has intended. And so I appreciate so much what you guys have done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a spiritual evolution, you know, it's growing, it's learning.
Sure. So you guys ready for a lightning round?
We're ready.
All right. Okay, here we go. And then we're going to find out a little bit more about how we can get a hold of your books and your practice. Favorite TV show?
Friends.
Sherlock.
Okay. Favorite meal?
My wife's lasagna, vegan, gluten-free lasagna.
Oh my goodness, I should have had something there. Anything I don't have to cook.
Okay, I thought you were going to say mopani worms from South Africa.
Oh, no!
Yeah,
No.
I had one of those right here, but that's about as far as it went.
Favorite book of the Bible right now? I know it changes over time, but right now.
2 Corinthians.
Okay. Genesis?
Yep.
Beginnings. Okay. Favorite place to live besides South Africa? I'm going to give you a pass on that.
Thanks.
Maui.
That's awesome. Paper, Bible, or digital?
If I'm studying the Bible with someone, paper. If I'm just having it on my own, digital.
I love the feeling, but it's more practical for me to do it digitally.
Okay. Apple or Android?
Apple.
Okay. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Okay. Cake or pie?
Cake?
Fruit.
Indoors or outdoors?
Outdoors.
Oceans or mountains?
Both. we have it both here.
We don't have to choose.
That's awesome. You guys have been great sports. How can we find out more about your practice? And also, obviously, your book's available on Amazon, but how can we find out more about your practice?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, our website is mindchange.com. So you can go there, you can explore it. Obviously, you know, we offer private sessions and retreats and things like that, but a lot of people also are taking our online courses, and we have a Metanoia Method online module 1 and module 2. So how to work on yourself is the first module, and then how to also start to help other people using Mind Change is the second module right now. So that's really helpful for people too, to be able to do it on their own.
We go so in depth with that. And let me just say, it's so exciting though, Thomas. There's so much happening with this.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing retreats. People want to do training. People want to do ministry trainings. We want to do a nonprofit. We want to train trauma response, first responders. Like, we really need more
Also people who go to war, I would think.
Totally.
PTSD.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
All of that is, I don't know anything. And I've listen, I've experienced it all, the MDR, NLP, all of the brain rewiring retraining. This is the fastest thing because it uses the best of all of them. So we've been able to clear the worst of the worst kind of stuff
in
that you can
such a
imagine.
short amount of time. I mean, such a short amount of time.
Things that people were in therapy for 20 years for.
30
So
minutes.
there's just so much, and we need help, and we want more people, and we're training people, because I will just a disclaimer, session wise, we're booked for like months, but for the one-on-ones, but we want to train more people to do this. So more people are training, and because we want to help more people around the world and just empower more people, and we want more people to know how loved they are by God.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest thing for them
We
to
are
understand.
his treasure.
Like, and what power comes with that.
Mhm.
So many amazing things on board.
You guys are awesome. And I'm so glad you're so young, because you got so much life ahead of you and so many great things to do. So
I'm going to take that, young. I'm going to take what you just said.
We're going to hold on to that.
I'm going to hold on to the young.
just make sure it's in your subconscious.
There you go. Yes. Hear that?
All right, guys, thanks so much for your time. Those of you who watch the episode, definitely consider clicking like and subscribing to the channel.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully we'll, if nothing else, I'll try to maybe get to Hawaii for a session.
Woohoo! Come on.
Come.
All right, have a good one, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, bye.